Many of us often feel a responsibility to let everyone have access to us anytime they wish. But even Jesus set boundaries. In this session, we'll explore the simple but powerful ability to say yes and no. We'll talk about different levels of access, and we'll see how these tools set you up to protect the yes of your life and in turn help you remain a powerful person while facing the increasing demands of your life. We are now going to step into the section about boundaries. This is an experience of the levels of intimacy that are naturally built into relationships, that it's really our job to identify them and to manage them. I'm going to do a little illustration here, use a little graphic that it points to the reality, like this, if this were your life, okay, this is your life, this is your little pink house and your green lawn and your little highway in front of your house. And every day, somebody goes by your house, right? Every day, there they go again. There's just this, you have a relationship with whoever's in that car. They drive by your house every day. And then one day, they decide to pull into your driveway. You're like, oh my gosh, someone just pulled up in the driveway. This is so weird. And then they come to your front door, they knock on your door. You're like, oh my gosh, they're at the front door. This person's at the front door of my home. What's going on? You go, you answer the door, they say, hi, can I come in? You go, can you come in my house? Coming in my house? So for whatever reason, you let them in the house. Here they come, they're in the house. They say, hey, is this your refrigerator? Like, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing? You just got in my refrigerator. And then they turn with whatever they got out of your refrigerator and they say, hey, is this your bedroom? You're like, oh my gosh. What is happening? Can you feel what's happening? Yeah. See, there are levels of intimacy in relationships. And there is a natural barrier in relationships that in order to move from one level to the next level, there's more required from you. And then to move from this level to the next level, there is more required than that level, which is a natural filtering system that fewer and fewer people move from driving by your house every day to your bedroom. There's lots of people that drive by your house. Not very many people make it into your bedroom. This is a natural filtering system that human beings have. For whatever reason, though, sometimes we don't pay attention to it. And we end up with violation after violation of moving through these levels of intimacy without paying attention to, are they meeting the requirements of what it takes to be this close, this intimate? Because the more intimacy that you have, the more access you have to my core, to my time, my energy, my resources. The closer you get, the more access you have to the vital parts of my life, and the more of a priority of relationship I'm communicating to you and the world around you. So let's say this is your core. This is your most intimate place in your life. And in there's room for really two people, you and Jesus, okay? Jesus and you. There's nobody that knows you as intimately as him. Regardless if you said the prayer and let him in or not, it doesn't matter. He's in there. He's in there. He sees you. He knows what's going on. He knows before you were born, during your life, after. He knows everything. Okay, this is the most intimate relationship you could ever have. Now, outside of that is your most intimate human relationship. And your most intimate human relationship is most, which means there's one. There's room for one. So if you're married, hopefully, this is your spouse. Doesn't have to be. Lots of people don't have that person there. There's all kinds of reasons that wouldn't be there. If you're not married, this can be a really deep friendship. It could be one of your siblings. It could be a parent. It could be somebody that you've experienced a life and death situation with. You were the most vulnerable you've ever been. A lot of people who served in the military, served in a war, come out of that war with a soul tie with somebody because they were the most vulnerable they've ever been in their life. And so this is the deepest bond with another human being they've ever had. There's all kinds of ways to end up in that spot. But outside of that, there's room for more. Let's stay with the family model. This would be your children. These people have the most access to your time, energy, and resources. Outside of that, there's room for even more. So maybe these are your extended family, best friends, people that you would drop everything to be with or to do something for. And then outside of that, there's room for even more. So maybe these are neighbors or coworkers or what have you. And then outside of that, there's room for even more. So maybe you're in the ministry or you have a big business or whatever, but you just have lots of relationships. So lots of people have your phone number or lots of people have your email address or however, but these people are vying for your time, your energy, and your resources. But because you're a believer and you have the power of the living God in you, you have decided to keep your love on, right? And you read the book. And so you no matter what other people do, you've kept your love on because you know you don't have permission from God to turn your love off ever. So you have to have a place for the scary people, right? You got to have a place for the grizzly bears and the great white sharks in your life, right? There's got to be a place for the scary people. Love ya, praying for you, hope everything's going great for you from over there. Because that's as close of access that they can handle is way out there. Now, these are fluid. These are, they move around. There are people who at one point were your most intimate relationship. Maybe you were married to them. Maybe you shared a bed with them. And now they're out with the great white sharks. Because this relationship blew up. They became so abusive, disrespectful. I have to keep you in a spot where you can handle, where I can handle. There are folks in here that maybe one of my children have decided that they're going to experiment with heroin for a while. And their life goes off the rails, and they're stealing stuff out of my house. They're inviting scary people to my house. What do I do with this crazy relationship? This is my child. What am I going to do? Well, now they have moved out away until we find a spot they can handle. And maybe they're out where total strangers are because I changed the locks on my house and my son or daughter can't come in, just like some stranger couldn't come in because they can't handle that level of access in the relationship. Now, mind you, that's my son, that's my daughter. They will always have that place. They can't stand in it right now because of what they're doing with their life. But that spot is open. They decide to repent, they decide to get away from that stuff. They have access to that daughter, that son spot for the rest of their life. I'll hold it for them. So this is a place of intimacy, a place of access a lot of people will never have. But even though I set limits with a loved one, they still have that spot available to them if they can handle that level of vulnerability. There's many dynamics that go on here. I just want to, I'm going to communicate value and priority of relationship by the way these positions have access. So this outside ring here, let's say that this is my life, and this outside ring, there's lots of people that I give my time and my energy and and access to me, like you, hi, how are you? I'm spending time with you, and yet you're out here, you're out here in this outer circle. No disrespect, but that's where you are, And so one of you say, oh, Danny, the engine on my car blew up. I'm like, oh man, did you tell Bob? And then there's this next layer inside here. Maybe this is the people at Bethel Church in Reading, where I serve on staff there. And they come to me and they go, oh, Danny, Pastor Danny, the engine on my car blew up. I'm like, oh my gosh. Hey, you know what? Here's the phone number to my mechanic. Tell him I sent you. He'll give you a really great deal. And then there's this next layer inside here. And these are my good buddies. These are good. This is Bill or Chris or one of my good friends, and they come and they go, engine on my car blew up. I'm like, you know what? Sherry and I have 2 cars. Here's the keys to one of our cars. Use that car until you get yours fixed. And then the next ring in there, that's one of my kids. One of my kids calls, says, Dad, engine on my car blew up. I think, oh, great. This is going to cost me $3,000. And then that one spot there, then that there's only one person there. That's Sherry. Sherry calls, she says, honey, smoke, oil, water coming out of the engine. And I think, I am talking to the woman who's going to choose the color of my next car. These boundaries communicate access. They communicate priority. So with each level of access, this is where we set boundaries on purpose, deliberately, to communicate to that person and everyone watching the position they hold in my life.
Looking at our parents and how we were parented, and then our children, and now that they're starting to have significant relationships of their own, I think this book is such a strong source of skills.
Not having goals for our kids, but just having goals for how we interact with them is just huge. And the notion that, on your best day, the best you can do is control yourself. And so realizing that let's just start with that as our objective, as opposed to whatever assumptions we have about what would be best for our kids. I mean, those are pretty big revelations that he's taught us.
See, boundaries communicate value. And so, if I take my wallet and I just throw it out on the floor in the mall and I walk away, I just sent a message to everyone. There must not be anything of value to me in that wallet, because everybody in this room has access to it. But if I take that same wallet and I take it down to the bank and I put it in a vault and I shut the vault, everybody who saw that goes, good grief, what is in that wallet that you would put it in a vault? See, because boundaries communicate value. So if I don't have boundaries around something, if I don't have these levels of intimacy around something, then I'm sending a message that there's little value that I have for it. See, if we go downtown to downtown Los Angeles, and we find a building that has no doors and no windows on it. What of value would you expect to find inside that building? Well, nothing. I don't expect that there would be anything valuable in there, because anybody can go in anytime they want. There's nothing required to have a relationship with that building. And so thieves and vandals enter that building, and they've taken any value they could find, and they've treated that building inside however they felt like doing it. So things are broken, and there's spray painted walls and nothing of value. Why? Because when we don't put boundaries around something, we literally attract disrespectful relationships. We literally attract abusive vandals into our lives. And so we must protect what's important to us. And what's important to us is why we're here. What's important to us is the things that we've said yes to. See, in order to say yes to something, you have to be willing to say no to something else. See, you cannot say yes to your life. You cannot say yes to why you're alive. You cannot say yes to your priorities if you're not willing to say no to other things along the way. There's an interesting story in Luke chapter 8 where Jesus, who is, he's batting 1,000, right? So everybody he prays for gets a miracle. Word's getting out, and he's traveling around city to city. Here he comes to another city. As he approaches the city, there's a group of people who've now come out to meet him. Now, what do you think these people want? Think they want an autograph? What do you think these people are waiting for? This is a group of desperate people. A group of desperate people have come to the edge of town to get a miracle from Jesus. A man named Jairus, who has a sick little girl at home, makes it to the front of the crowd somehow. And he's the first one that Jesus comes in contact with. And he says, Jesus, will you come to my house and heal my little girl? And Jesus does something powerful. He says, yes. Now, between Jesus and his yes is a crowd of desperate people who want a miracle. They want to direct his time. They want to direct his energy. They want access to his resources. They want to be the priority relationship. And the Bible says, and Jesus passed through the crowd. Jesus passed through the crowd on his way to his yes. See, for whatever reason, we like to think that Jesus is a lot like us. And he's afraid of saying no. I don't want to say no because I don't want anybody to be upset with me. He had better say no, or he can't say yes. He had better say no, no. See, as he passes through the crowd, you remember what they're doing? They're thronging against him. When was the last time you used throng in a sentence? Yeah. No. They're pulling at his clothes. They're saying, stop, Jesus, stop. Hey, look over here. Hey, wait a minute. He's moving through the crowd. Finally, a woman who's been bleeding for 18 years. She breaks all the rules. She's touching people. She's not supposed to be touching people in that culture. She gets to Jesus. She reaches over. She grabs him by the hem of his garment, and she's healed. And Jesus says, who touched me? His disciples are looking at each other like, who touched you? Wouldn't it be easier to say, is there anybody in town who hasn't touched Jesus yet? Who touched you? Why does he ask these questions that aren't real questions? Jesus is saying no to a group of people that are putting demands on him. If Jesus doesn't say no, he can't say yes to why he came. If Jesus was afraid of saying no, he'd still be in Nazareth today. Here you go, be healed. Here you go. Where are all these people coming from? I've been here for 2,000 years, people. Could you give me a break already? I have a cross to get to. Don't you care if I ever get to this cross? Nope, we want our healing. That's all we want. See, if you get good at what God has gifted you to do, woe unto you if you can't set boundaries, set limits, tell other people what you're going to be doing. If you can't protect your yes, if you can't protect your priorities, if you can't say no. See, as soon as you get good at fixing broken things, guess who's looking for you? Broken things. It's a powerful lesson in creating healthy relationships is understanding that it's your job to protect your connection to God. It's your job to protect your connection to your spouse. It's your job to manage your relationship with your children. It's your job to manage your time. It's your job to manage your finances. It's your job to manage your health. It's your job to communicate the levels of intimacy and the priorities in that. Because desperate people will put a demand to get what they need. And if you don't protect what's in there, it's not going to be in there for very long. You won't have any time. You won't have any health. You won't have any resources. Because people aren't evil, but sometimes they just want what they can get. So you had better manage yourself.
It's just so easy. I think that's the greatest thing in it is that Danny just lays it out so good in his unique style. All his material is great, but this one really just hits it. It hits it out of the park.
And I think how he's written it with hope, you can feel it. And you just come away feeling, I can do this. And so it's just a blessing. It's just very empowering.
Your time, energy, resources, and priority relationships are yours to manage. No one else is going to be able to assume responsibility for these important components in your life. The bigger your heart is, the more crucial boundaries come into play. Having listened to this last session, take some time and ask the Lord where you may have any boundary issue in your world that need attention. You might also ask some of your closest relationships what they see as potential adjustments to consider. Remember, your goal is intimacy and connection, not walls and barriers. So, keep your love on.